Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're checking this thing out on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, another game coming up for the Jags against a high-powered offense. I've seen a few of these throughout the year, and I would make the argument that this upcoming battle with the Los Angeles Chargers. I had to pause because I'm always in the habit of avoiding saying San Diego. I don't care if I'm the producer of the Bolt Blitz Uncut or not. It's still a habit for me. That being said, Justin Herbert may be the best quarterback remaining on the schedule that the Jaguars face throughout the rest of the year. Yes, even better than Danny Dimes. I'm sorry. But that to me alone makes this matchup very, very interesting for this Jaguars defense and everything they're dealing with. And I lead with the quarterback, Travis, because that's a big part of it. There's two elements to this game that are very important. There's one I wanted to hand to you, though, because a certain crackhead on this panel, I'm the problem, it's me, said that it was possible, even at some points in the season, felt likely that the Jacksonville Jaguars would make the playoffs. Where do we take that?
Well, I mean, it's possible. And I think maybe I can't say probable. I can no longer say probable with the loss to the Houston Texans, the improbable loss to the Houston Texans.
Quite improbable.
98.9%
allegedly.
Historic collapse for the Jacksonville Jaguars team in this past week 10. But nevertheless, shout out to Aaron Schatz on NFL on X. He states that the Sunday's game between the Chargers and the Jaguars is the most important game so far this season for playoff odds, with a 71% combined leverage. So the Jaguars have a 57% chance of making the playoffs with a win, but only a 19% chance of making the playoffs with a loss on Sunday. Meanwhile, the Chargers have a 91% chance of making the playoffs with the win and a 58% chance of making the playoffs with the loss. So it cannot be understated how important this AFC game may potentially impact the playoffs for either of these franchises. So if you want your crackheadiest take to come to pass, you're probably hoping for a Jacksonville Jaguars home victory on Sunday.
So from 58% with a win down to 17% with a loss. Yeah, that's quite the swing. That's or 19%. Sorry, I said
57 to 19. You got it.
That's wild. That's okay.
Man. 38% swing. That's something serious.
That's another reason for me to be concerned about my crackheadiest take. I mentioned Justin Herbert being the best quarterback remaining on the schedule, and I think this is also why you have amongst your key points, keys to victory, corners tighten up. And
well, I mean, I do need the corners to tighten up, but that's the first part. I need the corners to all play. And that's the big one. I mean, obviously, whether the question of whether or not Jordan Lewis is going to play is kind of lingering around this franchise right now. It's not the only thing that's lingering. I mean, you have the question of Brenton Strange's 21-day window was recently opened by the Jaguars, and we wrote about that on BigCatCountry.com. But also, so that's your big positive news right there. Brian Thomas Jr. also back practicing this weekend. Ezra Cleveland all looking good to go. All good things. But there's still that question of Jordan Lewis with that neck issue, whether or not he's going to play, because he started off the week not practicing. And even last week, I kind of thought he was going to play and he ended up not. So I'm not sure what to think about that. I'm always going to lean towards him playing because it's not like an IR situation. But we'll see how his practice habits go throughout the rest of this week. But again, that's just my guess, is that he's going to play until I find out that he's not. And also Parker Washington and Anton Harrison were both added to the injury report. Parker Washington with the hamstring, Anton Harrison with the knee after leaving the game on a Sunday. So they were both added to the injury report on Wednesday. On the Chargers side, I mean, you know about the Chargers. Mr. Bolt, Bolt Blitz Uncut. The Chargers side, they're obviously missing both Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, who are both out for the year, in addition to running backs Amarian Hamilton and Najee Harris on IR with Haskins. But overall, for the short-term injuries, they're reasonably healthy. Like Oronde Gadsden even practiced on Wednesday. So he left the game early on Sunday.
but that
he left the game early on Sunday and then got his MRI, and they said it was only a bruise. What was it? Bruise. It was only a bruise. I forget what the specific injury was.
Yeah, now you got me thinking I can't remember it either. But that's why I'm the producer.
Yeah, but it was only a bruise, and the fact of the matter is, he's been a very big part of their passing game for the last 4 or 5 weeks so far, and we know how the Jaguars struggle with tight end play across the last 5 games. So him playing for the Chargers is obviously going to be a big thing, and again, he practiced in full, I believe, on Wednesday, so he's going to be good to go for the most part. So for your injuries, those are the big things. But I think I need to your original question or your original point. The Jaguar cornerbacks, they got to get in their face. They gotta tighten up, man, because the Jaguars had multiple key downs in week 10 where the defensive backs were lined up 9 and 10 yards off of the receivers. And I'm yelling. I'm like, dude, they're obviously going to go for the slant. They're obviously going to go for the quick out. They're obviously going to go for the quick stop. And that's literally what the Texans did on most of those plays. And I'm just like, that's obviously not going to fly this weekend. Mm-hmm. Anthony Campanelli, Montaric Brown, Greg Newsom, we got to take away the layups. They're playing guys too soft pre-snap, and that was a cardinal sin that resulted in Mike Caldwell not being here right now. That was the original thing we said. If you're going to, because they have to play zone defense, because that's sort of what Montaric Brown leans into. That's one of his strengths. Even though I think one of his strengths is being a dominant press corner in zone, but that's normally cover 3 and cover 2 situations. That's what they were doing because I guess that's what they felt like they had to do since they can't play as much man. But it's just not going to work because if you haven't noticed, Justin Herbert, he likes to hold the ball a lot, wanting to create those explosive plays. But he also in this past week against Pittsburgh had a 2.2 yard time to throw. He was getting that bad boy out early and often because he knew he was missing Joe Alt. He knew Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line is ferocious.
He's
that TJ Watt guy is kind of awesome. But it was his only game this season under 2.6 seconds time to throw. He was at 2.2. He still got sacked 5 times. Yeah. He knew walking into the game what this was. So obviously the ball's going to be coming out quickly. The Jaguars cannot be standing off. They cannot be lined up 9-10 yards down the field, or they're going to just give it up all day, and it's not going to work out. So that's kind of why that's my original point, at least.
No, and I think there's some there. I would even say this much, and this would lean nicely into your second point. While I hear what you're saying, maybe on blitz downs, don't let it necessarily all make the play in front of you and finish it off. Sure, you're going to be at risk of getting beat downfield. These receivers are pretty good with Los Angeles. I understand that. But for me, I feel like there's an element because the pass game is so prominent for the Chargers because of the aforementioned injuries to Najee Harris and Omari and Hampton. I feel like the corners sitting back some isn't as bad. But if they do that, you know what needs to happen? You need to get home, D-line. Okay?
Well, but the getting home is it's a very interesting conversation. So there's a few pieces of this that we want to kind of get into. The week before this whole 2.2 seconds time to throw thing with Pittsburgh, Herbert, his time to throw was 2.9 seconds. And that's against the Tennessee Titans. And he still normally on most weeks is around 2.9 to 3 seconds per week. And he was sacked 6 dang times against the Titans. Right. That's not a great defensive front at all. And even then, they still kind of gave up a boatload of, obviously they lost both of their tackles at the time. Trevor Penning, who they traded for from the Saints at the trade deadline, is likely going to be the left tackle this week. So that's going to help out a little bit when we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars pass rush. They got him for a 6th-round draft pick. If that actually know how they feel about him anyways. That's not.
Yeah, Penning was somebody that the Saints were trying to get off the books, essentially, but still a significant upgrade to what they've been dealing with in Los Angeles.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the point. But this feels like deja vu. Haven't we seen this story before? Jaguars face a backup, and then the backup plays fill in the blank.
Well,
normally well.
I mean, at the quarterback position, sure. Is left tackle the same? I mean, when that backup has Justin Herbert in support, I'll agree with you. It's a thing. But for me, you referred to the Texan game, and rightly so to an extent, surely, that it was a battle of weaknesses. Travis, I think this is more so. That O-line, even with Penning acquired, is clearly the weakness of this Chargers squad. This pass rush in front four is clearly the weakness for the Jags, in my humble opinion, at this point in the season. So, yeah, weaknesses collide here. I think even more so, in my opinion, than last week.
All right, man. If you say so, like, again, I don't know how to feel about it, because every time we say they should get sacks and they should be dominant, they're not, and not enough. Anyways, not getting home with 4. But so Eric Armstead, I know we want to get on Josh Hines-Allen, and we will talk about Josh Hines-Allen and Trevor. But Eric Armstead, because he didn't get his flowers, and on this Wednesday Duval dive, I wanted to at least mention the fact that he had an incredible game against the Houston Texans, and it fell by the wayside just because, well, they lost. But he had so many pressures where he's right on the quarterback. He's right on Davis Mills as he's throwing the ball, or he's right on the running back, getting a tackle in the backfield. He's putting Mills under pressure and getting him out the pocket. He's just not getting that sack, but he's moving him off the mark, which is supposed to be what a defensive lineman's doing to, allow his edges to clean it up. Like, there were so many plays like that where I'm just like, all right, cool. So then you have a quarterback now in Herbert who likes to hold on to the ball. This is going to be that sort of game where Hines-Allen keep the pressure on him, while Eric Armstead is actually like pushing the middle of that pocket and getting him to keep moving, because otherwise I don't think there's anybody else on this schedule that is just this bad up front overall. To your point, Trevor Penning, it does improve the situation for them, but overall I don't think this is their best opportunity to show up and kind of show out. And maybe even Josh Hines-Allen, maybe you get that sack record this go around. Like, that's kind of where I'm landing on this bad boy.
I know. I see exactly where you're going, and I love how you showed us and not just told us what's going on there with Eric Armstead. But here's the thing, and we mentioned up front, you need to tighten up the coverage, or you need to get home. You can't not do both. And to your point, Eric Armstead was getting there, but where were the corners? That being said, if you're going to sit back and give Justin Herbert time like that to wait, you're just as screwed if the if the defensive line isn't getting there. Moreover, if Davis flipping Mills is scoring a touchdown on you on the ground, D-line, you need to do something about that, because Justin Herbert is going to run the hell all over you. If Davis Mills can do it. I got him with that one.
Yeah, he likes to run. Herbert he's finding ways to be their leading rusher on very many occasions while being their leading passer. Like, he is finding ways to put it together, sort of like Trevor Lawrence did in the Kansas City game. He is finding a way to truly be gritty and kind of put it together in that way. And in this Pittsburgh game, it was less about his legs, because, again, we talked about the fact that he was getting it out of his hands in 2.2 dang seconds. Yeah. But why does that sound familiar? Getting it out of the hands so quickly, it's very eerily similar to Geno Smith and Davis Mills against Jacksonville, is it not? Like, this is the passing chart for Justin Herbert last week against Pittsburgh, and you're seeing he is peppering them boys under 15 yards, 10-yard range. Like, that was what it was. Get the ball out, move down the field. But that looks eerily similar to Davis Mills and Geno Smith, who basically lived in that under 20-yard range. I mean, for Geno, it was really under the 10-yard range. For Davis Mills, it was definitely under that 20-yard time. Like, it was basically the same thing that the Jaguars have been struggling with significantly as of late. Is exactly what he did last week, Herbert, and exactly what Davis Mills and exactly what Geno Smith did the 2 weeks before that. So the Jaguars are going to face another team who is going to challenge them to say, hey, man, you're going to have to do better. You're going to have to do better than you've done in these previous weeks, or we're going to destroy you in the exact same way. So the Jaguars, per Dan Griffiths, Jaguars are getting killed in the quick game. 21.6 passing attempts per game, which is the second most in the NFL at 135, basically 136 yards per game, second most in the NFL. and 16 touchdowns given up, which is the most in the NFL. Check out his writing over there on Action Sports Jazz. Shout out Dan Griffiths.
But my question is this, though, and like I know, like on Wednesday, we were talking about maybe Foyer is starting to lose a step. Maybe he's not been as good as he's been in the past, blah, 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 blah. How much of this also, though, is other teams getting Campanelli tape and understanding that he's going to throw the kitchen sink. The chicken, I don't even want to finish what that was going to be. The chicken sink, really? No, yeah. The kitchen sink at whatever quarterback he's facing against. And that to me spells an element of dangerous, right? What was the whole thing that Shad Khan wanted to avoid in the previous regime? Predictability. Might the Jags be getting there? Or are they predictable because of all the injuries they're experiencing as well?
That's exactly where I land. I land on them being predictable because they don't have a choice but to be predictable. Like they were missing Devin. Like a lot of that lined up with their worst performances also happened to line up with not having all their guys. So the Jaguars defense allowed 28 points in 3 straight games, but that was a significant fall off after the Seattle Seahawks loss where Devin Lloyd gets injured during the game. Right. Trevon Walker is playing like 15% of the snaps. It was like 15% and 16 or 15% and like 18% in those 2 games. That matches up. Yeah, you're missing your 2 dogs and you're struggling because you can't do the things with some of the other guys. Like Ventrell Miller may be good, but Ventrell Miller's not Devin Lloyd, especially in the passing game specifically. Ventrell's a little bit better. Yeah, pass coverage. Ventrell Miller's a little bit better in the run stopping area, but not necessarily. He's not what Devin Lloyd is in the pass stopping area, which is why Devin and Foyer kind of complement each other. So that's unfortunately kind of where I land on it. But like Herbert, he's 20 of 33 for 200 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers in week 10. But he completed 15 of 21 pass attempts under 2.5 seconds. Jesus. 21 pass attempts under 2.5 seconds. That's 71% of his pass reps for 145 yards and his only touchdown. On the other plays, he was 5 of 12, which is 41% for 75 yards. That's on his throws past 2.5 seconds. So the Jaguars want to face another quarterback who's simply going to try to get the ball out quickly. He knows what he has up front as far as his protections are concerned, and he's not going to allow them to get home with those extra men. And he's going to say, beat me with 4 in coverage, something that the Jaguars just happen to be very bad at doing right now. Yeah. And by very bad, I do mean like historically bad, like over the past decade, bottom 4 over the past decade per Florida per SIS. Shout out Gus Lowe, Big Cat Country, Duval 22 says the worst team sack rates on 4-man rushes over the past decade is the 2018 Raiders, the 2020 Titans, the 2021 Falcons, and in 4th place at 3% is the 2025 Jaguars so far. They are struggling mightily at getting home with 4 rushers, and it's a serious problem at this point.
I appreciate, Gus, that you got that hashtag in there on that tweet shouting out how bad the Jags pass was. No, yeah, but that's a problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the problem. It may be the problem as it currently stands right now.
Sure.
But yeah, but also talking about the fact that the Jaguars get the ball out of their hands so quickly and everything else, I'm like, we never really talked about the fact that the Jaguars passing game has been pretty good at getting the ball out their hands quickly, but they haven't been very good at getting the ball down the field. Because that was something that Preston asked us about on Wednesday's Duval Dive that I thought we needed to we didn't have a chance to talk about it on Wednesday. Yeah. But yeah.
Even in his comments from Wednesday, Preston Timms mentioned they make the man think too much, let him off the leash, throw a damn go ball. That's
the man being Trevor Lawrence.
Being, right. Of course, Sunshine himself, Trevor Lawrence. Right now, and the implication being that the coaching staff is asking him to make the right decision and throw the ball down the field. You did not seem to agree with this concept when I asked you about it off air on Wednesday after the Duval Dive weekly stream. Please share, my friend.
No, I did not. I mean, and there was the comments that was referencing James. No, sorry, I almost said James Gladstone. Goodness, Liam Coen in his post game on might have been Wednesday, actually. Earlier Wednesday stated something along the lines of like he's wanting Trevor to feel comfortable enough to just rip it and let it go. Believe what he sees, essentially. Like, especially if that first read is open, you got to let the ball go. But I think Preston wants to see more of those vertical, BTJ sideline go balls. And he thinks that it's being coached out of him to be more conservative, which I just don't agree. I just think Trevor's just being inaccurate at throwing those go balls, because we've been talking about that literally since preseason, since the Bahamas workout trip with the guys on film when we analyzed that and that Duval dive. Like, throwing go balls and ISO balls down the sideline is not Trevor's strength. It has not been throughout his entire career. So if he does do it, awesome. But I just think he doesn't have the confidence. I don't think it's not that they're not running them. He's just not letting the ball go and not throwing them.
I agree with the non-confidence thing as well, because we've had the conversation on the show that we feel like they're still trying to bake the hero out of Trevor. And it may be that element of trying not to hero ball it that's keeping him from throwing it as well. There's a whole lot more psychological going on there that I think we can truly accurately evaluate without being there with him every day. I think that's an element of it for sure. But yeah, there's so many different ways to go when it comes to Trevor's psyche, and really how much of it is actually his fault, air quotes. We've had this conversation before where I can make the argument, I don't know how much I believe it, but I can make the argument he's not actually a fifth-year quarterback. He is a third-year quarterback recovering from being mired in Urban's coaching, and then the malpractice later in his tenure there of Doug Peterson thinking he could call plays, not having 3 Hall of Fame offensive linemen on his roster. So I
love you so much, and I'm always gonna push back on you on that take. We've had it so long, but that whole he's actually a third-year guy. I hate it. I hate it with the passion. I know where you're coming from, but I want to be honest with you.
Did you hear the lead? I don't even necessarily believe it. What I would do is meet you in the middle and say he's a 4th-year guy, because that Urban year is a throwaway. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, all right, that was that bad. I got you. Yeah, it was that bad of a coaching experience. I do understand it. So we know the cornerbacks got to tighten up on the outside, man, because we got to give away the layups, start giving away the free lunches. The defensive line has to get home, and that is talking to you, Eric Armstead. That is talking to you, Trevon Walker, and that's absolutely talking to you, Josh Hines-Allen. Bro, you got to get home, man, so they can stop talking about you in these streets about pressures, and we can start having conversations about sacks, not pressures. You got to be our sacks leader, man. Like, that's what you're. That is what we are here for.
Podcast listeners, please go to the Duval Dive YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't yet, and check out Travis's graphics.
And then go back and keep listening to it on the podcast, because that's what pays. That's what pays the bills. But yes. But offensive line, be ready for a fight, man. Like, that is the fun. Again, Dan is always hooking us up with some incredible stuff, like just talking about the differences of the Jaguars' offensive line performance from the early parts of the season. Weeks 1 through 4, they only gave up a 21% pressure rate, but in weeks 5 through 10, so starting around that Kansas City Chiefs game, that jumped up to 38, nearly 39% pressure rate, and they're the 21st in sack percentage at 7.6%. Remember, the Jaguars' defensive line was at 3% sack rate, so that's the difference of 21st in the league is 7.6. Just to let you know how far back we are right now on just getting quarterbacks down. And the defensive line is equally struggling.
You mentioned about the adjustment to the pressure allowed by the O-line. I'm trying not to channel my inner Cam Newton again, but like, Travis, who were the first 5 offensive linemen or offensive lines that the Jags faced?
I mean,
or defensive
the first 5
Jags faced previously.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers, the Trey Hendrickson Bengals, who balled out of control
because he forced an interception, right?
He balled out of control. Yes, the 49ers, the Texans,
a weakened 49ers with no Bosa, and then week 5 was the Chiefs.
So your argument is they are who we thought they were.
What I'm saying is it's somewhere in the middle, right? Because then after that, they face the Texans, who are really good, the Seahawks and Rams, good God, and then Max Crosby and the Raiders, and I haven't even, like at that point, it's a much better cast of characters. So I'm not saying the first first 5 games were a mirage. I am saying this is about middle. The answer, what they could be healthy, is somewhere in the middle.
I got you. No, I'm here for it. No, the Jaguars, they've been struggling to block for a minute, and yes, teams figured out the whole fact that they can stunt on them, and that helps them get home a lot easier because their communication issues exist. Well, we talked to Marquise Ogden about that one. They haven't scored. The offense specifically hasn't scored 23 points in 3 of the last 3 games. 3 of the last 4. They scored 12 points against Seattle, 7 points against the Rams, 22 against Houston, because 7 points came from the punt return, and really 10 of those points came off turnovers anyways with short fields. Let's be real. And they then gave away 7 points on the final play fumble return for a touchdown against Houston too, if you want to be specific about it. They struggled to protect Lawrence in those same 3 games that they gave up. They were limited on the points. They gave up 7 sacks, 7 sacks, and 5 sacks to Seattle, Los Angeles, and Houston. And his quickest time to throw in any of those games was 2.8 seconds. So that was pretty. Yeah, that means that they're going to probably have their hands full. I'm not going to BS you right there. It's just being real. Like between. What is it? Tuli, I almost say his name wrong. Tuipulotu 2 has 8 sacks.
Very good.
On the year, and that's Anton's gonna have his hands full, bro. There's no other way to say this. He just is. And then the Jaguars are probably going to want to send extra help to Walker Little because he's struggled so much all year. But then they're leaving him, like you're gonna leave him on an island with Khalil Mack and Udafe. Udafe Owe, sorry. Because both of them have 4 sacks on the other side of the ball. What do you do? Like both tackles need help. Both tackles need to be help. Getting the guys have guys chipping, and you can only give help realistically to one of those guys, or you're only going to have like 2 or 3 guys out on routes. So you're kind of stuck there. I don't know how you protect Trevor Lawrence in this game, and this feels very similar to that Houston Texans game from last week. I'm just being real.
Some boots with Hines-Allen is all I can think of, and even then, I don't know if I like
it. I don't know if I like it. That sounds like the name of my next mixtape. Yeah, but that's what this week is. I don't know if I like it. But here is where we are. So the biggest thing, because I feel like we've been talking about a lot of negatives and a lot of opportunities for this Jacksonville Jaguars and ways this thing might not go right. But hey, what opportunity do you have right now to win this game? Run the damn ball. Like that's where this is, and the Steelers kind of figured it out throughout their game. Like
if you just run through somebody's face, a lot of people ain't gonna be able to take that over and over and over and over and over again. They just not gonna want that.
I think there's a deeper metaphor there.
Run through a motherfucking face.
It's hard to disagree with Marshawn ever. I mean, that's pretty much what it's got to be.
Another way you could utilize Hines-Allen, not for nothing.
Hey man, the Chargers, they've been good. I'm going to be real clear. They have been very good. They've been a top 10 team as far as stopping the run for much of the season. Over the past 3 weeks specifically, they've led the NFL. They were first in the NFL at 65 yards a game given up on the ground. But that's also against the Steelers, the Titans, and the Vikings. I mean, that's not murderous row as far as the running backs you're facing, because against Indianapolis.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Make of that what you will. 100%.
Yeah, so like against Jonathan Taylor 4 weeks ago, he had 94 yards on 16 carries. So that's not nothing. Like that's actually a pretty solid game. You're right. They're not unbeatable is the whole point. You got to try to shorten the game. You got to try to keep controlling the ball, maybe get a few turnovers here and there. But yeah, just so you know what to expect. Another team who they'll kind of do the same thing that the Texans did last week. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Both Houston and the Chargers run the same rate of cover 3, mostly on rundowns, while running the exact same rate of cover 4. It's 33% and it's 28%. Both of them, they do the exact same thing. So like the Houston's number 1 in the league on EPA per DB, and the Chargers are 4th. They run cover 4 is the primary coverage that Trevor Lawrence has struggled with in his entire career. We talked about that on 3 games this year. Next Gen Stats has put that out on multiple occasions. It's the primary coverage that he struggles with, and it's the primary coverage that they play on passing downs.
And what's
not
even
great,
worse,
Bob?
Right? What's the way you beat a cover 4? Is throwing the damn ball over the top, which is the thing Trevor Lawrence has not been able to do well this season.
Throwing the ball over the top with play actions is definitely the helpful part of it, especially attacking those safeties on the inside leverage. Yeah, that's fair. But you got to run the ball first to do that, make the play action work. And yes, you have to be able to hit it when the opportunity presents itself. Sure. So the offensive line and Travis Etienne got to keep them in manageable downs and distances, i.e. eliminating the penalties and the early down sacks that we've been talking about ad nauseum, like every dang week at this point.
And I meant to mention that with the O-line, it's just a whole the no penalties thing comes up even huger there over and above everything else you just said.
Yep, and they got to find a way to gash them with some explosive runs, because every week that's the biggest thing for the Chargers. It's the less you're going to have less opportunities because they're really good at stopping the run. But when you do break one, you have to turn those 5-yard gains or those 6-yard gains into 30-yard gains, 50-yard gains, 70-yard gains, because it's a lot like that Seattle Seahawks game, but the Jaguars playing the role of the Seahawks, where you might be the better team to play the game on a down-by-down basis, but they beat you because they beat you on the explosives. That's how the Jaguars win this game, like a puncher, like a heavyweight boxer who all they have to do is catch you on the right one. That's my way of seeing. I think the Chargers are the better down-by-down team. I want to be clear in saying that. I do believe that to be the case, even with their injuries. But I do believe the Jaguars have a puncher's chance of winning it if they can win on the explosives. But Trevor Lawrence, you got to hit it. Travis Etienne, you got to hit it when it's open. You don't fall down and trip at 10 yards, 12 yards. Turn that into a 50-yard run.
And moreover, should Herbert actually turn the ball over with this defense having done what they've done so far this season, you got to capitalize.
That's it. Now I ain't talking field goals capitalized. We talking touchdowns.
No shame.
I don't want the points that jingle. I want the points that fold. Oh, sorry, but it's the you know what I'm talking about.
I'll give you your Coming to America reference. Well done, sir.
So, man, who are your X factors for this one, brother?
Yeah, for me, it's 100% the defensive line for stopping the Justin Herbert run. The X factor for me is keep him under 20 yards on the ground, because if he has under 20 yards on the ground, that means the most he's gotten them is 1 first down doing it. That's just where I'm at.
Nice. That's an interesting one. So keep him from running the ball and doing what Trevor Lawrence did against the Kansas City Chiefs, which keeps them on the field. I like it. That's an interesting one. I'm going to have to go with Walker Little.
Yeah.
I mean, Walker Little has if there's a game where Walker Little gives up less than 4 pressures, the Jacksonville Jaguars probably win. And on the games where he doesn't, or he gives up more than those 4, the Jacksonville Jaguars are probably going to lose, like the Cincinnati Bengals game. And that's kind of where I am. I know he's going to need help, but I don't know how much help they're going to actually be able to give him unless they are going to leave Brenton Strange or leave the second tight end in to chip on one side while Quentin Allen's on the other side, and then you just have all the receivers not having space because they're getting doubled and triple covered. So they're kind of stuck there. So I think they're going to have to leave Walker Little on the island at least ever so often, and he's going to have to show up and show out and have his leads that morning. So it's going to come down to what does Walker Little do against Khalil Mack? Because I think Anton Harrison might be able to at least hold his own ever so often against Tuilopo. I'm never going to say that right in one word. But but yes,
I get to practice it. It's not your fault.
Yeah, I had to write it down phonetically just to say it right, man. But yeah, so
your franchise has had Chris Fumatuma Afala. How hard can it be?
Very. But so you got 2 8-sack guys essentially on each side. I mean, one side that has 2 4-sack guys who have played, a few split the season because of injuries, and the other side has an 8-sack guy also. So help is not on the way. They're going to have to just be ready for the challenge, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. Walker Little just plays reasonably. Like, I don't say you have to be perfect. Just don't be what you were against the Houston Texans. They're probably going to be okay. But if he's anything close to how they played in this past week, hey, man, it's going to be trouble. It's going to be trouble. So pray for the O-line, pray for Trevor Lawrence. That's what it's going to be. But looking at the stats. All right. So in points per game, the Chargers land at 8th in the league at 24. points per game offensively, while the Jaguars are 22nd at 22.8. The Chargers are third in the NFL with 265.4 passing yards per game, while the Jaguars are 23rd at 222, and that's with the very hobbled offensive line for the Chargers. Herbert's finding a way to get this thing done, man.
He's not an MVP candidate. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway,
I hate to say that because I would never like this game, but hey, man, the proof is in the proof. The proof is in the tape. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're ninth in the league. The Chargers are at 123 yards rushing, with the Jaguars 15th in the league at 120. How have they fallen off from being that top 3 rushing team in the league to now we're at 15th? Whew. As far as the defensive side of things, the Jaguars are at 31st in the league with 12 sacks, whereas the Chargers are at 7th in the league with 29. And as interceptions, the Chargers are 5th with 9, and the Jaguars are 2nd with 12 based on those first few weeks of the season, those first 5 games.
So by the way, right?
Yeah. So they're putting in work as far as the interceptions are concerned. I think they really got to get this thing ramped up, like as of late. Now with the return of Devin Lloyd, if they want this game to go the way they want it to go, I think they're going to need a turnover or two this week specifically, especially with that pass rush up front for the Chargers. Where do you land, sir, on the pick of the day?
See, I'm going to throw things too, right? Like last week. Now, granted, because that fourth quarter happened, they were right. They weren't right because they thought they should have been right. They were right because they stumbled on it, right? But anybody here who has a 50-point game on their slate, I believe, is absolutely correct. I feel like one of two things is going to happen. There's going to be a shootout, or the Chargers will score big and win in dominant fashion to that point, right? Of course, the 2 homers on the panel and Bucky Brooks, and not only Jags homer Maurice Jones-Drew, but also Charger slanderous hater talking about the Chargers charging halftime of that fateful playoff game, have the Jags winning. Everybody else is universally picking these Los Angeles Chargers. And yeah, listen, I'm going to come right out with it, take my gloves off and make the swing. I have 35-21 Chargers here. I think this is a high scoring affair. I've got 56 points myself. I oddly enough don't have Cam Little involved, which I feel weird about, but that's where my gut sits. 35-21.
I mean, you know how I feel. I'm no longer gauging and grading on a curve. I'm no longer going with, hey, the coaching is going to improve the lack of, depth or the injuries that they're going through or whatever else. I'm just grading it how I grade. I'm calling it as I see it. I do think the Chargers win this game 37-27. I think it's not close. I think it's a high scoring game. I think the Jaguars have struggled to stop teams multiple weeks straight now. And I don't know that help is necessarily on the way as long as Eric Murray is going to be on injured reserve, as long as the question mark of whether or not Jordan Lewis is going to be playing there. And again, you got another team that plays very good defense in the ways that Trevor Lawrence generally struggles as far as the when and how they play cover 4. And as when and how they add the extra guy to the box on the early downs like the Texans do against the Jaguars. That's exactly what I expect. So I expect them to struggle to run the ball on early downs, and I expect Trevor Lawrence to struggle passing the ball on late downs. That's not a great formula for a victory. I'm just being real about it. I don't think it's close. I think the Jaguars unfortunately lose this one. And again, I think they lose by 10. So 37-27 is what I have.
I'm fairly certain this is the first time the two of us have picked a Jaguars loss
together
on a pod. Yeah. And listen, I know part of it in your case, I make jokes about you flinching at Tyler Dragon's comments about you having picked the Jags all the way up until that up to that Rams game. And you haven't picked them since. Let's be clear about that.
Let's be clear that I've been right. I said they were going to lose against the Raiders by 1 point, and they missed the 2-point conversion that would have made that come true. I said they were going to lose last week, and they lost. And I'm saying I've been right 3 out of 3 basically, but whatever. We'll say 1 out of 3.
Okay, by that logic, I'm taking credit for the Houston game because everything I said would happen against Houston absolutely did until the fourth quarter.
Also fair.
With all that in mind, hey, listen, I don't think it's about Tyler Dragon anymore. I think some other fire's been burning, and you got burned by your Duval devout.
The Seahawks game, yes, they embarrassed me in front of my friends and family. I ain't like that. Yeah, you're right. My bad.
My family's here. So yeah, I think we are not optimistic about this game, but yeah, even if we're both right, I'm still gonna go full dumb and number with my crackheadiest take. So you're telling me there's a chance. I don't care if it's only 70%. So, yeah. Anyways, that's where I'm gonna leave that. Travis D. Holmes, tell the world.
You can find my writing covering the Jaguars on BigCatCountry.com. You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. If you want to talk about the Jaguars, you want to talk about general NFL, you want to talk some college football, maybe even some CFL. We can get into it. Like I like all things related to football. But most importantly, you can find me on the Duval Dive. So if you're listening to the sound of my voice on the on the Duval Dive YouTube, please click like and subscribe. Please drop something in the comments. We love discussing anything Jaguars related with those who follow and listen to the podcast. And if you're listening to us on the audio version, shout out Believe Network. Please rate and review us. Give us all 5s. It helps us tremendously with the algorithm. And, it gets us paid. So we appreciate you. And let them know where you can be found, sir.
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold banneret covering UCF football and basketball, as well as the Night Shift podcast on the Night Shift YouTube channel there. I will have your live reaction to what will probably be a bloodbath as UCF does battle against Texas Tech as they bring out exactly what they paid for in a fantastic team that's ranked quite highly, by the way, among Big 12 teams. So make sure you check out that action as I perform therapy for Night Nation. Also, my work with the Bolt Blitz Uncut. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check out my appearance on the Electric Eds podcast with Taylor Bloom. And yeah, that'll do it all for me. So for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, for all of you in the comments out there, you Duval divers taking care of us, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismiss.